Caitlin Clark's roster is falling apart, and the season hasn't even started. The expansion draft is over. Indiana survived. Kelsey Mitchell, still here. Sophie Cunningham, still here. Lexie Hull, still here. Herb Simon got lucky, and head coach Stephanie White knows it. Because right now, as you're watching this, free agency is open. Negotiations started this morning. Contracts can be signed Saturday, and every team in the WNBA has money to spend. Stephanie White needs these players back. She built this culture. She turned a losing franchise into a playoff contender. But the roster decisions, the money, that's Herb Simon's call. And Simon has 4 days to keep Caitlin Clark's best weapons in Indiana. The math doesn't work. Here's what nobody is saying out loud. The expansion draft didn't take Kelsey Mitchell. It didn't take Sophie Cunningham. Portland and Toronto passed on both of them. But free agency might do what the expansion draft couldn't. Mitchell got a core qualifying offer from Indiana on April 7th. 1 year, Supermax, fully guaranteed. That's the good news. The bad news? Coring Mitchell locks Simon into $1.4 million before he signed a single other free agent. And Cunningham, who made $100,000 last season, is about to get a call from every franchise in this league. Herb Simon, the man who spent 30 years turning the Indiana Pacers into a cost-cutting exercise, now has to outbid the entire WNBA for 2 players at the same time. He's done this before. We know how it ends. Let's talk numbers. This is a 7-year collective bargaining agreement, the biggest labor deal in women's sports history. Revenue sharing, salary escalators, Supermax contracts, everything the players fought for is now real. And it's about to cost Herb Simon everything. The new cap is $7 million. Clark is already under contract. Aliyah Boston is already under contract. Makayla Timpson, Indiana's 2025 rookie, is already under contract. Those 3 eat $1.3 million off the top, $5.6 million left. For 9 more players, Mitchell's core offer is $1.4 million. Do that math? $4.2 million for 8 players. The average WNBA salary in 2026 is $583,000. 8 players at average is $4.6 million. Indiana is already over budget, and Cunningham hasn't signed anything yet. This is what revenue sharing and a real salary structure does to a franchise that built its roster on underpaid loyalty. I want to stop here because I need you to answer something in the comments. If Herb Simon can only afford one of them, Mitchell or Cunningham, who stays? Mitchell is the all-star, Clark's backcourt partner, the playoff performer who carried Indiana to the semifinals without Clark by her side. Cunningham is the enforcer, the culture, the woman who took a hit for her teammate and kept playing on a torn MCL. Other franchises are in the same boat. A'ja Wilson in Las Vegas, Supermax eligible. Breanna Stewart in New York, already announced she's coming back, but at what cost to the Liberty's depth? Every contender is making the same impossible choice right now, but Indiana's version is personal. One of them might not be back. Tell me below, Mitchell or Cunningham, who does Herb Simon keep? Here's why this gets ugly fast. Cunningham made $100,000 last season. Under the new 7-year CBA, the minimum salary is $270,000, and that's for a first-year player. Cunningham has years of service. She's earned more than the minimum, and she has leverage. She just landed a broadcasting deal with USA Network. She has a podcast on Colin Cowherd's network. Every team in this league with cap space is going to make that call, and some of them have more room than Indiana does. Now add Lexie Hull, restricted free agent, meaning Indiana can match any offer she gets. But matching costs money Simon doesn't have. Stephanie White needs Hull. The Tres Leches chemistry, Clark, Hull, Cunningham, didn't happen by accident. White built that. And now Simon's checkbook determines whether it survives. The Fever traded Nalissa Smith, a first-round pick, and a third-round pick to get Cunningham from Phoenix. They paid a steep price to build this roster, and she could walk out the door for free. Training camp opens April 19th. Simon has this week. Let me take you back to 2024. Caitlin Clark walks into Indiana as the most hyped rookie in WNBA history. The tickets sell out, the TV ratings triple. The franchise valuation jumps from under $90 million to $370 million in 1 year. That's $280 million of value. Created by players Herb Simon didn't develop, didn't draft, and in Cunningham's case, traded for at the very last minute. Mitchell had been here for years, carrying losing teams, staying loyal when she could have walked. Season after season, no playoffs, no contention, no support, and she stayed. When the Fever finally built something worth fighting for, Mitchell was already in the foxhole. She didn't arrive for the glory, she was here before the glory existed. Then came the 2025 playoffs. Clark goes down, Indiana keeps winning. Mitchell takes over, calm, physical, relentless, and drags this franchise to the semifinals on her own. If you watch those games, you already know. She wasn't a supporting player filling in for a star. She was the star. She was everything Stephanie White needed her to be, at the exact moment it mattered most. Cunningham's story is different, but just as important. She came over from Phoenix in a trade that cost Indiana real assets. And in her first season, she did something money can't buy. She set the tone. Every night. The physicality, the corners, the three-pointers in traffic. But more than any of that, the message she sent to every player in that locker room. Nobody messes with Caitlin Clark while Sophie Cunningham is on this roster. She tore her MCL in August, and she stayed in the huddle, kept coaching, kept talking, kept showing up. That's not a role player, that's a leader. Stephanie White didn't just coach these players, she built a culture around them. The Tres Leches, Clark, Hull, Cunningham, wasn't a marketing slogan. It was a defensive identity, a trust system, something you can't replace with a free agent signing in April. And now, because of a salary cap that didn't exist 2 years ago, Simon might lose 2 of those 3 in the same week. Here's what bothers me most. Herb Simon watched his franchise triple in value. He watched Gainbridge Fieldhouse sell out. He watched the national TV deals, the merchandise, the Caitlin Clark economy reshape women's basketball. The women who built that made $100,000. Now the 7-year CBA has changed everything. The revenue sharing is real. The Supermax is real. The money is finally there. Think about what this moment actually means. For the first time in WNBA history, owners have to pay. Not because they want to, because the collective bargaining agreement forces them to. Minimum salaries that actually cover rent. Supermax contracts that reward excellence instead of punishing loyalty. Kelsey Mitchell, who made a fraction of what she was worth for years, now has the power to walk. Sophie Cunningham, who earned less in a season than some NBA players earn in a single game, now has options. This is what the players struck for. This is what the fight was about. And the question is whether Herb Simon meets this moment, or whether he watches Stephanie White lose the roster she built, piece by piece. Because he won't spend what the new deal demands. If Mitchell signs elsewhere, Clark loses the backcourt partner she asked for by name on national television. If Cunningham leaves, White loses her enforcer, her culture. The player Fever fans have tattooed on their arms. Lexie Hull gets a qualifying offer, but matching it costs money Simon may not have left. The expansion draft didn't take Caitlin Clark's best weapons. Herb Simon might. Negotiations are open today. Signings start Saturday. The draft is April 13th. Training camp April 19th. By this time next week, we'll know if Stephanie White gets her roster back, or if Herb Simon let the best version of this team walk out the door. For nothing. Drop your prediction below. Mitchell, Cunningham, Hull. Who's still a Fever when camp opens? And if you've been following this channel, you already know what I think Herb Simon is going to do. I hope I'm wrong.